Morning everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Canary Room. I know I say this every time, I have genuinely lost count of the number of episodes that we've done this year because we've had a number of special Canary Room specials, a number of on the road trips, a number of bird room visits. Fair to say that it's been and continues to be a very, very, very busy time in the Canary Room. The show season is just past the midway point for us. As I film this, as this episode goes out, we'll be at north of England. There are just shy of 1,000 birds benched there. So great credit to everyone who is exhibiting there. We'll take the camera. Coming up in the episode today, well, we are back in the room. I thought it was about time we had a little look back in the room to see what was going on and just to update you with some of the things, some of the show preparation, how I do things here in the Canary Room, have a little look at some of the birds. We'll take a little on the road trip as well. And we've got a couple of new arrivals, so we'll have a little look at them. So listen, everyone, you know what to do. Grab yourself a cuppa. Thank you, Michael. Good old Mike Burling from Down Under sent me a parcel, a very much appreciated parcel, including my very own Fife Life mug. So everyone, grab yourself a cuppa, sit back, and as always, enjoy the show. Well, finally, we've had a change in the weather over the last few days, and it's quite cold here in the Canary Room. You might see a couple of the birds are sort of a bit fluffier than usual. You can hear the cockbirds are in good voice. You'll see just here on my staging, I've got 5 show cages on the staging. I've got 3 birds that haven't been out yet that I'm just having a look at for the show in a couple of weeks' time, which will be our last show of the season. Fair to say, it's been a very good season for the Spencer and Elm partnership. Best champion up in Scotland, runner-up best in show up in Scotland. We had a run out at Southern England where we had, I think, second best champion Cinnamon, a couple of class wins, and then we went to North Wales the weekend just gone, and the North Wales trip was a very enjoyable one and a successful one for the partnership as well. We also, and a shout out to Al Brown, who's done a sterling job of sort of keeping the Merseyside Border and Fife club ticking along. We put a very small team of birds in there, half a dozen birds, many of which hadn't been out, just to give them a bit of a run, but more importantly, to support the show. Pleased, I think we had 6th best champion Fife and 2nd and 3rd best allied to White. So all in all, every show we've been to, we've won either a major or a minor special, which is good. But more on that a little bit later on our on the road trip when I'll show you some of the pictures that I took from those places. Up on the staging, as I say, I've got 3 birds I'm having a look at. There's a clear buff hen, a clear yellow hen, and a 10% light or heavily variegated, depending on where you show, cockbird that might get a run out at the Midlands. They're not quite finished. The clear yellow in the middle has got really nice style on it, as has the clear buff, to be fair. But they're not quite finished yet, and with the show sort of 10 days away as I film this, it'll be 7 days away when it goes out. I won't make a decision until later on whether they go out or not. The beauty of the partnership, certainly, I think Gerald and I have both felt this year, is that there are birds from both rooms that are doing well. but also there is not a pressure to overshow birds. So if I give you an example, there are, I think between us we've got 6 clear yellow hens, and although we showed 3 early on, and we maybe consistently show 2 or 3, they're not the same birds. And one of the big challenges that I think lots of fanciers have, because the show season is it's a massive commitment, and it's a massive commitment on the birds as well. And I think that the challenge of perhaps having a smaller stud, it's certainly one I've faced many, many, many times, is that you've got your birds and, there's always a risk of overshowing them. That's not something that I think we are suffering from this year. So again, at North Wales at the weekend, we had birds that hadn't been out before. Our 3 colour special wins at North Wales. Although we won the clear special again, we won it with a different bird from last time. Obviously, it's the first time we'd won the 10% or lightly variegated special, and it was the first allied to white special we'd won as well. And those birds were, at least 2 of them I think were the first time out. So that bodes well, and there's more to come as we go through the show season. So I'm going to talk you through in a second the show preparation that I'm doing here in the Canary room. So cages, I'm not going to show you the washing cages because it's not very interesting, to be fair, but the show cages are washed and disinfected after every single show. The perches are bleached after every single show, just to make sure that the birds are going into a very clean and hygienic environment. The worst thing in the world is that you put a bird in a show and it comes back unwell. So trying to take every step and measure to prevent that. I have mentioned it, I think, on Facebook on a Monday, Tuesday, depending, it's Tuesday today, but on a Monday or Tuesday, I'll give the birds a heavy spray in this plastic cage, this Italian plastic cage I've got. So I'll show you that now. I'll cut away to that in a second. And essentially what I've got is a pump action spray with sort of warm water in it. And the idea of this, it's got a little bit of shampoo in. It's pet friendly shampoo. So it's got a little bit of shampoo in. And the idea with this is you want to get, you want to break any and loosen any of the under feather that's still on the bird. As I say, looking at some of the birds up here, they've still got some way to go. They're not finished yet. And the birds will get a real soaking. It's just over 7 degrees in the Canary room at the moment, but I'm doing this early in the morning, so they'll have the day to dry, and that's really, really, really important. The other thing to focus on, and you might be able to hear it on camera, is the overall sort of fitness of the birds. There's a lot of cocks singing. As I say that, they stop, but there's a lot of cocks singing in the room, and that reason is twofold. One, there is a number of cockbirds in the room, but perhaps most importantly, it's to do with my sort of show season management of them. So the shows can be quite stressful for birds. It's a new environment. We do everything we can to limit the stress, of course. But what I am doing is giving a series on a sort of cyclical basis of products in the water. Now, one that I've used all of the time is Avigold 11-in-1, which Martin Halen, the budgie breeder, put me onto. And I've been using that for the last 12 months or so. It's an all-round sort of multivitamin, etc., etc. I'm also using Enhance, which is a vitamin D product. It's a vitamin D product. It's also a calcium product. Again, that's helping with sort of feather development through the latter stages of the molt. And then the final one is almost a bit of a blast from the past, and that's a product called Origo Stim. And Origo Stim is essentially an oregano extract, and the birds have been on that for a few days, and it's noticeable because what it does, it's all about gut health, and what it does, and you'll see it in the droppings. It gives really white, clean droppings with a sort of black whip to them, and that tells me that the bird's overall gut health is in a good place. So, in addition to those things, of course, they're getting really good seed, and I'm also giving them little top tonic treats. And then before the show, I'll give them a little finger draw of Blue Moor. And I talked again on Facebook in the preparation to fireworks about the benefit of Blue Moor, and the sort of benefits that Blue Moor has. So you've seen me spray the birds. Let's have a look at a few of them now in their cages, having had a really good soaking. So I've mentioned this numerous times, and it's been, a sort of theme of the comments that you've all made about the sort of, the Judith Chalmers, if you will, the Alan Wicker of the canary world, the numerous travels, destinations, countries, regions that I've been to throughout the show season, and that shows no sign of abating this weekend. As I've already mentioned, I'll be at North of England. Gerald and I will be at North of England on Sunday. Prior to that, I'm judging Walsall, so very much looking forward to that. It's always a good show, Walsall. So again, another commitment this weekend that will take me away from the family, and then it is the sort of the final trip the following weekend to the Midland, and then I'm going to have a weekend off. There is a show that weekend, but I won't be showing it, and then I'll be off to Florida, and then finally I think the week before Christmas I'm judging the Bristol Fife show. So a significant commitment. It's one I enjoy, so I'm not going to complain about it, and it's always lovely to see fanciers up and down the country. Let's very quickly then go on the road. So we've had, as I mentioned, since we were last out, I put a video out a couple of weeks ago now about our Scotland trip. That was a really, really enjoyable trip. We've had a few shows since then. First up was Southern England. We had a kind of mixed, I guess, performance on the show bench. I think there was over 800 birds there, so there were some big classes. Some of the birds that had done well for us the week before didn't do as well, which was a little bit disappointing. We had a couple of class wins. We had some birds in the cars. We had a lot of birds out of the tickets. And that happens sometimes, and you have to take it sort of squarely on the chin, and say that, our style of birds, our standard of birds wasn't what the judges were looking for on the day, and that's something that you just have to accept, and accept with great grace. Massive congratulations to Smith and Evans, who've had a really, really good season. I think they had 3 colour specials, which is no mean feat. A big show, a number of birds on the top table is a real achievement. So a massive congratulations to Richard and Ray. Ray hasn't been in the best of health lately. So really, really pleased for them. And Smith and Evans, it's a stud which has stood the test of time, really. They've consistently won over, certainly as long as I've kept Fife, over the last sort of 2 decades or so. So delighted for the lads there. Peter Bennett took Best Novice. Novice awards were relatively well split, as were the Champion awards. As I say, our own performance on the day, not our best show, but you take that and you move on. The day was a real treat because we went to to see Keith. Keith lives about half an hour away from the show, so Gerald and I took a trip to see Keith, to see some of his outstanding Norwich Canaries, looking in fine feather, as you would expect, nothing less from Keith. And then the following weekend we were back on our travels again, this time to North Wales rather, to Carnarvon, the Carnarvon show. What a fabulous town Carnarvon is, an absolutely beautiful place, lovely setting, new show hall for the show, just under 600 birds benched. David and Rudolph Fowles and David Zahar over from Malta to judge, always lovely to catch up with the Maltese lads. And we had, an outstanding show. We had 12 class wins. We had, I think, a team of 40 plus in there. All but 2 were in the first 7, which is really, really pleasing. And again, what's really pleasing is that there were birds where, we had 1 and 2 in the class, or 2 and 3 in the class, second and third place rather. So very, very, very happy with that. A great trip to North Wales, and a massive well done to Norman Hughes. Norman is one of the nicest guys in the fancy. It's his hometown club. I think I read somewhere that it's the first time a Welsh exhibitor's won the show since 2017. And there are some very good, strong Welsh exhibitors. So delighted for Norman. I caught him outside beforehand, and there's a few pictures of him here with the winning birds. So very, very, very well done, Norm. So yeah, that's been the last couple of trips. Let's head back into the Canary room now. Well, look, no visit to Keith Ferry would be complete, would it, without coming away with something? And I'm delighted to say for the 2025 breeding season that we brought in a couple of very, very nice, outstanding birds, a flighted buff cock and an unflighted saddleback buff hen, both of which I'm delighted to have. So we'll be Norwich in the room for 2025. Really, really, always indebted to Keith. Has always let me have some top quality birds, and has done so again today. So that's very much something to look forward to. Red pole wise, well, the red poles are still here. I'm waiting for the DNAs back. It's been a little bit frustrating, let's just say. So the DNAs went a while ago, and they were lost, and so I've redone them. I had to wait for the tail feathers to grow back. That took 6 weeks. I've redone them, and they're all paid for, and at the moment I'm still waiting for them to come back. So I know a couple of people have contacted me for red poles and the likes, and look, I will do. As soon as I've got the DNAs back, I will be in touch with you. So if you have made contact, please don't worry. You'll see a couple of shots of them here. The room is full of red poles. So that's a sort of roundup with the room. Let's have a quick chat about plans for the season ahead. For me, one of the most sort of important things about the show season is actually next year's breeding season, and it can be hard because the show season takes up an awful lot of time. It takes up a lot of focus. It takes up a lot of energy. But as a breeder of exhibition type canaries, you've always got to be looking ahead. And the key important thing for me is how I'm going to set the stud moving forward and what that looks like. So you'll see, I think, on the wall here that there's a number of dominant clearbirds that dominate the room, and for many of you who follow the channel, you'll know that sort of starting really this year, moving into next year, I will be concentrating on the lighter birds, so the clears, the lightly variegateds, the variegateds, and I'll have some cinnamons, I will have some darks, and Gerald will be predominantly concentrating on the darker birds, although he will to retain a couple of light birds for breeding next year. So very much looking at, the plans for the year ahead. And the challenge with the plans for the year ahead is some of the birds aren't sexually mature. I can hear the cocks. I don't know if you can pick it up on camera, but some of the hens are warbling. Some of the birds that I'm still not sure about are warbling like cockbirds. Some of them look like hens but warble like cockbirds, and that can catch you out. When I'm thinking ahead for next year, the room will be dominated with Fife. So next year, the grey wings have already moved on. I will keep a few pairs of red poles back. There'll be a pair of bullies. There's a few pairs of Norwich. There is a little something else in here, but I'll talk about that another day. And that's how the room's going to roll for the future, really. And so what I'm doing is sort of looking at the numbers of birds that I intend to keep. I'll run probably 5 cocks on this wall with 3 Fife hens underneath them. Probably on this wall I'll run another 2 cocks with 3 hens, and then I'll use this bank of cages here to just pair breed. And I'll pair breed for a couple of reasons. One is a time commitment, and 2 is that there'll be a number of unflighted cockbirds in that pair breeding programme. I will use a couple of unflighted cockbirds over more than one hen, but that can be quite challenging. I have got obviously Gerald and I working together. I brought over a very nice 2-year-old, it'll be 3-year-old clear yellow cock. For next year, I brought over a couple of nice buff hens as well to go over them. But I'm pleased that, I'm sort of holding my own, really, and the clear birds are really, really developing, and that development is borne out on the show bench. So there's a sort of strong line of birds to work with for next year. As for the show, many of you will know this is the final season of the Canary Room, and when I say the final season, I don't mean, and I've said this a number of times, that there won't be any more episodes and any more content from the Canary Room. There will be content, it just won't be as frequent as it has been. So I have almost completed a new mini-series called The Masters, which will premiere early in 2025. The Masters involves interviews with Phil Warne, Peter Harrison, Keith Ferry, Gerald Spencer, and it will involve Nick and Anna-Lane Barrett as well. I've just got to get that trip scheduled in. And that is interviews with some of the greatest on how they built a winning stud of birds. And, I'm sure all of us, whether we've kept birds for decades or whether we're just keeping birds, will learn from that. I intend to do a quarterly return to the Canary Room. The first one of those is likely to come out in March. And then once a quarter, I'll do probably an extended episode from the Canary Room, so you will still see what's going on in here. I have a little mini-series where I'm going to look at birds from the shell to the show bench. So what I'm interested in doing is capturing birds over a series of months and capturing their progress, almost sort of documentary style. There will be a couple of sort of special episodes as well, and we will also do some on-the-road trips. So listen, there is plenty more to come from the channel. I hope you all understand that after 7 seasons, there's not a lot else I can say. It's sort of, I feel like I do the same video every year, and I want to just change things up a little bit. And also to announce to you all, some of you who are my friends on Facebook will already know this, but I will be a grandfather next year. So my daughter Poppy is due to give birth in April next year, at the end of April. So I'm going to be a granddad. So I'll have 6 children and a grandchild, God willing, next year. And it's really, really important important for me and for them that I get to spend a little bit more time with the family. So listen, if you've enjoyed this episode, coming up in future weeks, I'll talk about the pairing plans for the breeding season next year. If you've enjoyed this, smash a like. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, we are edging ever closer to 20,000 subscribers. I'd love to get there before the end of the year, but only you can help that. So please, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, consider subscribing. There's bucket loads of content on here. Until next time, everyone, take care.